Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm actually going to be talking about books. So it's not makeup related or anything, but the people that follow me on Instagram have been requesting for me to do this video just because I do talk about books a lot on Instagram and like the fantasy books that I read. So this is for you book nerds, and if you maybe know somebody who is and you were thinking of getting them a book, maybe this video might be a little bit useful. So growing up, I used to love going to the local library in Germany where I used to live, and my favorite writer at the time was actually R.L. Stein. So I used to read his Goosebumps series, his Fair Street series. So they're like great books for kids, you know, and they're like a little bit scary, and they're just a little bit like weird and fantasy, and you know, so I think they're great. Like the Goosebumps series are more for children, the Fair Street books are more for like teenagers, and so I really love them. My parents had no control over any of the books that I read. My parents weren't into reading when I was growing up, and so they never really knew what I was reading and what the content of it was. So I think people, you know, especially parents now, are a lot more aware of what their kids are reading. So that's why I just quickly mentioned that which one is for children and which one is for teenagers. Because as a kid, I also read Stephen King. And I don't think at the age of like 11 or 12, I should have been reading Stephen King. I had a lot of nightmares, and you know, every time I read a book of Stephen King, it did take me months to recover. So I wouldn't suggest for you to get your kid a Stephen King book. He writes horror stories, like horror, like real horror, okay? This is like, you know, crazy horror, but he's an amazing writer, and he's very well known. So Stephen King I would definitely suggest if you kind of want to get, they're just like timeless, they're like classics that I would definitely recommend. I think Carrie is obviously a favorite of mine, and then there is oh my god, there's quite a few actually. I'm so sorry, I can't think of names, but look into it anyway and just like see what you really like. And then when I sort of started school, you know, and college and stuff, the books that I loved were the Harry Potter books, and I can guarantee that even if you're not a reader, you know about the Harry Potter books, okay? And I started actually reading them when I was 18, when the first movie had already come out, and I was babysitting my cousin and he had it on DVD, okay? And I thought, what is this? And I watched it and I loved it, and then I basically got all the books that she had released at the time. And I'm still obsessed over them, and the movies I think did them very good justice, and I watched the movies at least 11 times maybe, all of them. And probably The Philosopher's Stone is still one of my all-time favorites, so I probably watched this one a lot more than all the other films. And I've also been to the studio, the Warner Brothers studios in Watford in London twice. No, I'm lying, I've been 3 times actually, and yeah. So I'm like super obsessed. If you or anyone you know hasn't read these, I can guarantee you, when the last book came out, I was working in the city, and I would sit in the train and I would see men in suits, okay, in suits, reading these, like literally reading the last book. I know it's not necessarily just a kid's book. I think this is an all-rounder. This is for everybody, and oh my god, like J.K. Rowling is a genius, like absolute genius. Like yeah, just obsessed with these books. During the same time when Harry Potter came out, the movie Lord of the Rings came out. So I never knew about Lord of the Rings, and I know J.R. Tolkien wrote those, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote this book, let me find out for you, in, oh, it doesn't say, oh it does, 1954. Wow. The first edition was 1954, guys. So this is the story that was written in 1954. And if you watch Friends, Ross Geller was also obsessed with The Lord of the Rings. Anyway, so I watched the first movie, again, loved it. So got all the books and read all the books, and I was so impressed. And can you imagine, my 13-year-old cousin had this in her list of reading from school that was given to her, and she decided to read them. So she actually borrowed all my books and read them and loved them. She read them in like weeks, okay? I took forever because the way it's written, like the English, the language, was a lot harder for me to read when I was 18, because I had just moved to England a few years prior to that, and my English wasn't exactly the best. So I did struggle a little bit with this book, but I would say, man, such a good read. Obviously the movies are classic. I mean, Peter Jackson did a fantastic job with the movies anyway. So I would definitely recommend you read the book rather than the movies. The movies are a little bit outdated. I wouldn't suggest for you to watch them now. I think you'll just be a bit like, what? But the books are just, again, classics. Lord of the Rings is just definitely something that you would have to read. Now, if you are a guy, so see, I feel like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings is just so for guys as well. So is R.L. Stein, okay? So R.L. Stein books, so much for boys and stuff as well. So you don't have to be a girl. I don't think I've mentioned any books at the moment that's like super girly, okay? So Stephen King, R.L. Stein, you know, we have like Harry Potter figures, we have Lord of the Rings, so they're suitable for everybody, okay? No matter what sex you are. If you do like dragons, and so this is again for guys as well, is Aragon. So forget the movie, they sodapified it, but the books, so I read all 4 of them, are amazingly written. Christopher Paolini, I've never read any of his other books, to be honest. This is the only series that I read, and I was obsessed with them. So I would definitely recommend it. So if you do like dragons, if you like elves, then yeah, this is the one for you. I do read other books too. So there was a period during high school, I did sort of read a lot of romantic novels. I think as a girl, when you're a teenager, you do fantasize about cute boys and whatever, and I felt like coming from a strict Tamil family, you're not gonna have a lot of guy mates at the time, okay? So it's literally just going to be movies, and you know, you fancying a movie star or a boy band, or it's gonna be romantic novels. And this book still, so I'm not kidding, I mean this wasn't the original that I had read, but I bought this, and as you can see, it's like, you know, it's like yellowish, and it's very old. And this book was written, let me check, in 1998. I read this book from the library in school in 1999, okay? So I read this when I was only 15 years old, and I shouldn't have read this when I was 15 years old, because this is definitely an adult story. So I wouldn't recommend you to, you know, anyone watching who's under 18, you're not allowed to read this book, okay? But it is my favorite book. It's my absolute favorite book, and I did say to myself that if I ever did, you know, decide to have a kid, then and if she's a girl, then she would be called Lily, okay? So this is Lily Josephine, and she would be called Lily because the character in this book just completely made an impact on me. And so this is like a modern Cinderella story, but with a lot of evilness and twists and whatnot. But think of Cinderella story that would happen today, okay, with all the adult stuff involved. So definitely not a kid's book, but it's beautifully written. Kate Saunders is just such a beautiful writer. I have read other books of hers, and yeah, this was by far like my favorite book. It still is my absolute favorite book that I cherish, and I think it's about time that I give this another. I've already read this book like 4 or 5 times now throughout the years, and I would like to read it again, because you just forget, and then you just kind of sometimes feel like you just want a really nice love story, you know, but something that's real, like a realistic love story, not the, you know, ooh, where's my glass slipper? But anyway, right, moving on to other fantasy books. I read Twilight. I I did when it first came out. I was obsessed with them, like I think everyone did. I think it was a time where for a long time nobody wrote about vampires or werewolves, and then all of a sudden you had a book that had vampires and werewolves and an epic love story. So of course every single person was just going to be like, ah. But now when I read Twilight back again, it's actually quite badly written, and it's too childish in that sense, and I didn't feel like the movies did it justice as well, and overall it was a disappointment. But I think it was, I don't even know how to explain it. It's the idea of it that I really liked, and that's why I was obsessed with them. I'm really sorry for offending any Twilight fans. I myself have all the DVDs. I have, you know, I have like all the books. I've read them all, and I've even read The Host from Stephanie Meyer's. But yeah, anyway, so if you are a vampire fan, which I can safely say anyone that's into fantasy would love anything to do with vampires, okay, is the Vampire Academy series by Rochelle Mead. Okay, so I was introduced to this by my friend who I actually introduced Twilight to, okay? So she was obsessed with Twilight when I told her about it. So she did me a favor, a much better favor actually, and introduced me to Rochelle Mead. So this was the first ever book Rochelle Mead wrote. And no, actually I'm lying, I might be lying actually, it was probably not her first, but anyway, this was written in 2007, so definitely 11 years old, but anyway, don't watch the movie, please, I beg you. It's ridiculous that they would even, oh, they completely destroyed it. But anyway, this is, oh my god, like, oh my god. And this is definitely appropriate for children, teenagers, maybe not children, but teenagers for sure. So you can definitely read it. I approve it, okay? This is Vithya's seal of approval. You can read this, and I can guarantee you're gonna be obsessed with these, okay? So this series, and in fact, all of the characters in Rochelle Mead's book, so I've read every single book that she's ever written, you know, like ever. Huge Rochelle Mead fan. And this series, or like I said, all of her series, they have very strong female characters, okay? So all the main leading ladies are like super strong, they're very opinionated, they don't take, you know, crap from nobody, and I love that. I think it's a very inspirational, she has very inspirational characteristics that Rochelle Mead portrays in all of her books, and I feel like as a woman, as a female, it's very nice to read these, even though they're fantasy and they're fictional, and you know, yeah, like obviously not real and they're not based on any true stories, but it's nice to, you know, it makes an impact. Like you read this and you're just like, wow, this is how I would react, or this is how maybe I should react. And you know, so I have recommended this to all of my cousins, and anybody that asks me about favorite books, I always say Rochelle Mead, go for Rochelle Mead. So I highly recommend them, and every single person that I've recommended Vampire Academy to, hands down, has been obsessed with them, like obsessed. And I don't think any book ever in my life has made me cry. I mean, the Lily Josephine did impact me a lot, but then I was 15 years old. I've never cried. But this, in one of the series, in one of the books of the series, I actually did. And I was like 24, I think, at the time. So yeah, I would definitely say read all of her books. I'm currently reading her Glittering Cord series, which is her latest series, which are not my favorites out of her whole bunch, but it's still really good. And because I like her style of writing, there's not too much description, there's a lot of talking, which I prefer, because when there's like, oh, and then the curtains were this color, and then it was like moved 2 centimeters to the left, and you're just like, I don't really care. But sorry, maybe some of you do, but I certainly don't. But anyway, so please look into Rochelle Mead. I know she does a lot of book tours in Europe and, sorry, not Europe, in America. And I've been dying to meet her and get one of my books signed by her. But yeah, anyway, moving on to newer books, guys. my friend Hati from Germany, so we're book nerds. So I have like a couple of friends, we all have the same taste in books, so we always recommend books to each other. And me and Hati have like the exact same taste in books, and she actually recommended Sabaa Tahir, and I had never heard of her before. And can you imagine, like, this lady right here, this is her first ever book, okay? So she's only released 3 books, and it was just the series. And she actually released them 2015, so it's not that long ago. So this was the first book, and obviously there's 2 more, and the latest one only came out in September this year. I was so impressed. I was so impressed with the writing. I was so impressed. It's kind of like, so it has a little bit of fantasy, but it's more fiction in the sense, I feel like it's a lot more, think Game of Thrones / a bit of Lord of the Rings / I don't know, something along those lines. But it's a lot more Game of Thrones. Like, it's a lot more about empires and, you know, a different time where they're all fighting for a throne, and it's kind of like there's a little bit of a love story, and there's, you know, this woman who's lost family and whatever, and she's kind of like taking revenge, and she, you know, so it's like, it's another like really cool, powerful character, and it's seen from both point of views, from the guy's point of view, from the woman's point of view. So I felt like it's a really good read. Absolutely loved it actually, and I've read the 2 books, and I'm about to read book 3. So I would definitely recommend Sabaa Tahir, Amber in the Ashes. Another new one that I actually read was The Red Queen. So this is actually the book that I'm currently reading, okay? So this is what, you know, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that this is what I'm reading at the moment, by Victoria Aveyard. I have to admit, she wouldn't necessarily be my favorite writer. Like, I think I prefer Rochelle Mead in terms of style of writing, because this book has a lot of description. There's like less conversation, a lot of description, a lot of thinking, which is not my favorite style of writing, like reading it. But the concept is insane, and apparently they're gonna make movies out of these, okay? Because it's so cool. It's like such a cool concept. So this, I would probably say, think Divergent, think Hunger Games. So it's almost like along the lines of that. It's like a mixture between Hunger Games and, you know, Divergent, but set in like a really old sort of time with really weird kind of things happening. So that's how I would look at it, and I loved it, and I really, again, loved the character of the main girl. Really strong, really bold, and you know, so I really love them, and I got Hati addicted to these as well, so she's like obsessed with them. So I'm currently on book 3. It apparently has 4 books. I'm not sure, maybe there's more, but so far she only released 4. So I would definitely recommend it. Another one that I've recommended that a lot of people liked as well is this. Okay, so Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Now this is more, oh my god, what would I say? Like really weird creatures. Think Mortal Kombat. Think Mortal Instruments. Do you remember that film, Mortal Instruments? So that's kind of what I would put it in, like Percy Jackson. Okay, another one that I've recommended, a lot of people did actually like when I recommended it, was this one. So Daughter of Smoke and Bone, sorry, by Laini Taylor, and Laini Taylor, or however you pronounce it. So this is more, think Mortal Instruments, think, I don't know, angels, demons, okay? It's like a lot of, name it. I mean, there's no vampires or werewolves, but it does have like a lot of demonic things, okay? So think a lot of weird looking demons and angels, and there's like this epic love story and this great, you know, reincarnation, whatever, name it. So anyway, 3 books. Really enjoyed it. I felt like the first book was super easy and super great to read, and then it goes on to, you know, like a proper war, and it becomes heavier, and it's just like wow. And so yeah, this one was a great read. I did struggle with book 2 and book 3 actually, because I felt like it got a lot more complex and a lot more complicated, so you do need to have time. Okay, so these are not very quick reads. I feel like they take a lot longer to read, just like with the Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like certain stories, you do have to pay attention to every single sentence, because it could potentially make a huge difference, okay, if you miss something and stuff. So here it says it's very Northern Lights and Pan's Labyrinth in one. I would definitely agree with Pan's Labyrinth. I would say it's very like Pan's Labyrinth, and I love Pan's Labyrinth. And yeah, I would say this is in that sort of range, but think Mortal Instruments as well, or Percy Jackson, you know, that kind of stuff. So I feel like this is great. And I mean, they're apparently saying they're going to make a movie out of these as well. I'm not sure, because you would need to have a lot of budget to make a movie like this, because it has a lot of very quirky looking characters in here, so it's kind of just like, how are you going to do that? But the Red Queen, I would, I mean, this one I would probably say I'm pretty sure that they would be able to make a movie out of this. This is pretty cool, and so exciting. So yeah, so these are like my 3 current favorites that I've read and really like, and I would recommend. So I hope you enjoyed this. I know there are a lot more stories, like a lot more books. Obviously I haven't mentioned like Dan Brown, or I haven't mentioned Larson, you know, like there are a lot of like crime books, and it's just these are like my, you know, my favorites growing up, and then I just kind of had to mention some of the books that I'm reading at the moment. I will do these videos hopefully once a year, so you guys can see what my current favorites are of the year, or which ones I read, because I used to be able to read books much faster, and I feel like it takes me a little bit longer now because of timing. But if you do have any fantasy book recommendations, especially since you know my taste now, please give me the recommendations. I would love to read them, and if there are any books that you absolutely hated, I would like to know why. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please give it a thumbs up, leave some feedback, share, and wait and watch out for the next one. Mwah!